بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala barakatuh. May the peace and the rahmah of Allah and blessings be upon you. Um, Hoping everybody's doing well. Returning with the series on dhikr, and it's my intention that the video won't be long, but it be strong. So this subject is how dhikr affects the nervous system, and dhikr is invocations, can be translated as remembrance, uh, or even affirmations, if you will. It's a method of repeating particular words, phrases, or formulas rather, a series of time. And this is the process of dhikr. In their jointly written book, Words Can Affect the Brain, Dr. Andrew Newberg, a neuroscientist at Thomas Jefferson University, and Mark Waldman rather, a communications expert, state a single word has the power to influence the expression of genes that regulate physical and emotional stress. So these professionals, the communication expert as well as a neuroscientist, scientist of the brain, they say that a single word can affect emotional states as as well as have the power to influence the expression of genes. And this is our actual makeup. This was communicated in many different regions from around the world, many different spiritual and or religious systems, such as chanting mantras in tones or just chanting the regular mantra without the tone, in the Islamic world as zikrullah, and different Aboriginal Americans, or now called referred to as Native Americans, when they were chanting around fire, chanting these different things, and all of them in all systems, they all do the same thing. They all have the same actual effect, and such as zikr is the form that in Islam is used, and this is regarding tasawwuf, or spiritualism. And spiritualism has, or spirituality, it has no religion. It's not. It doesn't have any cultural box that it's put in. So when we think about words, why would words affect our systems, our nervous systems? Now, the nervous system is composed of two different things. You have the central nervous system, which is the brain and the spinal cord, central. And you have the parasympathetic nervous system. And the parasympathetic nervous system is all the pathway of nerves throughout the whole entire body. And this is what affects all our emotions, because the emotions come from actual chemicals that's secreted directly into the blood system. So when you're familiar with fight or flight responses, this comes with adrenaline and so forth. But that adrenaline is a chemical that's secreted into the blood. So, and even the fight response, you know, actually to face something, it comes from using the adrenaline in a certain way. So, why does zikr actually affect this system, one of the most important systems in the body? We are people, and as an individual, you are a person. Now, person is coming from the Latin word, two different Latin words, per and sona. Per means through, sona means sound. So a person, is made up of sound. You see, person means through sound. How do we communicate? We communicate through our words, also body language, right? So sound has a direct effect on our being. As in the previous video, I mentioned that When you may be feeling in a low mood, you put on music that you like and you start jamming and you feel good. That sound affects you. Even when someone gives you a kind word. Oh, that's a very nice suit you have on, sir. He start feel good. He tighten his tie a little bit. I'm like, yeah, it is a nice suit. So words have an effect. But now this is something that we are doing intentionally. And there's so many different dhikr. And the best thing to do is get a dhikr from your sheikh or your guide. Because when you get a dhikr from your guide, you get guidance. Just as if you needed to go somewhere, you would ask someone who knew the layout of the land. And this is one of the most important things because now you can go on a course to affect your actual state. And this is in Arabic is called your how, or this is your state of being. So when you do zik, we usually repeat it over and over and over again repetitiously, such as astaghfirullah. Astaghfirullah means I seek forgiveness. And for everything there is a polish. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace and blessings be upon him, he said everything has its polish, and the polish of the heart is astaghfirullah. So when you do the chant or the zik, astaghfirullah, 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 this is something that purifies the heart. And when we say heart, we're actually referring to the subconscious mind, because within our subconscious mind, it is a wealth of abundance. However, sometimes we trap trauma within that subconscious mind. And when something within our life, we engage it, it may trigger that trauma. So we're gonna automatically react to it. So how do we clear these things out? Many different things that we encounter throughout the day. It may be on social media, it may be on TV. It can trigger certain things. These are patterns that are trapped within our subconscious mind, and our nervous system reacts to those different stimuli. There's an experiment called that Pavlov done, and Pavlov was a scientist who he had some dogs, and he would ring a bell right before he fed them. And every time he would feed them, over and over and over, he would always ding, ring the bell. So what Pavlov discovered that even without seeing any food, he would ring the bell and the dogs would begin to salivate. So everything in their digestive system was getting ready as if they were going to eat. So it affected their whole entire system, just this ding of the bell, this chime. And this is how many things work with us. When something happens, if you notice, you may get a notification and then immediately you grab your phone. It before the thought even comes, you immediately grab it. So this is a conditioned response. And in the same way, using affirmations, intonations, or even invocations, if you will, they affect us in the same way, such as a person who may be very restless. We use Ya Salam. Ya in Arabic, it calls the attention to something. And Salam, it means tranquility, serenity, or peace. So you're calling, oh, the peaceful. So when you do the zik, Ya Salam, Ya Salam, Ya Salam, Ya Salam, Ya Salam, Ya Salam, what happens is you actually are invoking a peaceful state. And what you're doing is planting seeds in your own subconscious mind. And the more you do this, you water the seed. And in time, the seed grows. So when you actually have a situation that may not be peaceful, that state is already a part of your being. So you can actually handle it in a peaceful manner. So over time, this state is cultivated. Just as if you're a martial artist and you're practicing kicks, you might not be that good. You might not have that much balance. You'll learn the basics of the kick, but you'll do it repetitiously over and over and over and over again until you may be attacked, and it happens immediately. So this is in the same way, this is a mental exercise, or you can even use a spiritual exercise to cultivate certain aspects or seeds of our subconscious mind to where they will automatically happen when we use them. Dr. Newberg and Mr. Weldon, they further go on to state that by holding a positive and optimistic word in your mind, you stimulate frontal lobe activity. This area includes specific language centers that connect directly to the motor cortex responsible for moving into action. And as our research has shown, the longer you concentrate on positive words, the more you begin to affect other areas of the brain. So this is when you're doing zik or invocations or affirmations at certain numbers, the longer it takes. And you're concentrating on this thought for that long. And then what happens is you actually affect the the neurons in the brain. So when you learn a new skill, a new activity, or even focus on something, as all is very commonly stated now that energy flows where your attention goes. So when you're placing your attention on salam or the state of tranquility, or you may be focusing your attention on qawiyu, the powerful state, so many different things, but focusing on this one thing and repetitiously repeating it over and over and over, you are constantly exercising this state, but also you build neurological connections in your brain. In that area, the brain grows. People who have, or scientists rather, they examine the brains of people who are musicians and people who play an instrument. Those areas of the brain are actually more developed than people who don't. And this comes because they're constantly working on that instrument over and over and over and over. So the area of the brain and the activity is stronger. And it's the same with meditation. And it's the same with zik. When you concentrate on certain things such as Latif. Latif is one of the 99 names of Allah, and it means the subtle one or the pleasant. So when you're doing the zik such as Ya Latifu, Ya Latifu, Ya Latifu, Ya Latif, it actually directly affects the subconscious mind. And you'll see many different things within your being come to fruition. Many pleasant behaviors. You see many pleasant feelings and things of this nature because this is what begins to happen. Dopamine in the brain begins to secrete and actually directly affects you when you're conscious. There's many things that we take in our subconscious mind this today, and then next day we automatically act on it. So in the same way, you can intentionally use the science of zik, invocation, or affirmations. You can use the formula to affect your mental state of being, and from there, it will become automatic. So it's a very sure process. It's mathematical, and it always works. So this is, as I said, a very short segment on Zik. If you have any questions about the subject matter, you can ask the question now through the comments, or you can email secretofallah@gmail.com, and your questions will be addressed in the next video, inshallah ta'ala. So I think we may have a few questions, and we'll address the questions at this time.
The first question is, does zik need to be in Arabic?
Does zik need to be in Arabic? It's good to say the zik in Arabic because Arabic is mathematically exact. And for instance, in Arabic, you have three parts of speech. In English, you have eight parts of speech. So you can get exactly to what you're invoking in Arabic because of the mathematics behind it. Every word in Arabic, when you use the abjad, which is the numbers to the Arabic letters, it adds up to something exactly. So you're calling the essence of the zik out when you say it in Arabic. Same way if you want to call 911 because there's a situation and you need the police to come. If you dial 411, you just get information. So it's good to use Arabic because it's mathematically exact. But if you want to just you do invoking or affirmations, you could do it in your own native language. The ideal is still there. It just doesn't hold the essence of that particular thing.
You also mentioned the importance of going to a sheikh or a guide. Like, how does one find a guide or a sheikh?
Um, a person is drawn to a sheikh. They don't necessarily search like somewhere to find a sheikh. A person's mental and their spiritual state, it draws them exactly to where they need to be in life at all times. So, it's, in the old kung fu axiom says, when a student is ready, the teacher will appear. So when a person is a seeker, they will naturally be drawn to a sheikh. So all the person has needs is to have the desire.
This question is more of a personal question. When you um, when you started to um, zik, was it something that was difficult for you when it came to manifesting your reality, or was it just did it just feel simple? You know, feel easy? Did it fall naturally for you?
When I would be given tarbiyah. Tarbiyah from my sheikh. Tarbiyah is called spiritual training. So I would be given a series of zik, and I'll sometimes I would just do it and just concentrate on the words. But other times my mind would wander. I'll be I'll be doing the zik and my mind be wandering all over the place. And also I would was given a tarbiyah to do for 40 days. And if I didn't do it consistently, like say I did it for 37 days and then I didn't do it that one day, I would have to start all over. And then the sheikh would ask me questions to gauge my spiritual state. And sometimes I would answer, but I would answer from my ego. So then he would say, just do it for another 40 days. And I wouldn't really, understand that at the time. But I would do it for another 40 days. And he would ask me questions, and I would answer the questions without any thought. Because what happens is when you do zik, then your spiritual state changes. So at first, when you begin, you have the nefs involved, which are aspects of your soul or aspects of your consciousness involved. And you already, before you're asking the question, you already feel like you got the answer. Your state hasn't even changed. It hasn't been long enough. So you go on a test with yourself, just like in the Bible where it says that who they call Jesus was in the desert for 40 days and 40 nights. And during the desert, he fasted, and the shaitan tested him with different things. And then at the end, he said, "Get behind me, Satan." So it's the same thing that happens when you doing zik. You'll have thoughts pop up. Some of them come from what people like to call the lower self, but this is just different parts of your brain that is coming from. It's not always the frontal lobe or the higher brain. Sometimes it's the medulla oblongata, the animal or the reptilian brain. So you be thinking about all kinds of stuff, and but you just keep pushing through it while you're doing the zik. As you push through it, all of those thoughts will get behind you, just as is in the story. Shaitan was told, "Get behind me, see." because that's just an aspect of the carnal self that's trying to pop up and hold on. So it's a process with Zik, but as long as you do it, it works. It's just like taking a vitamin. When you have, if you want to take a vitamin, if you're low in iron or if you're low in some type of vitamin, you just take that vitamin along the regimen and it will work. Whether you think about it working or not, whether you read the back of the bottle or not, as long as you take it, it'll work. And this is the same with Zik.
Okay. Well, you kind of answered my last question, which makes me feel like I should have asked that question first. But I'm gonna go ahead and ask anyway, because you did mention the scientists and the effect that the bell had on the dog. So
Mm-hmm.
my question to you was in reference to Zik, but you already answered the question. But I want to ask it anyway, so you can know where, um, how you kind of already answered that question. But Zik, can Zik change your behavior permanently, or is it or is it that you should maintain Zik to maintain the behavior?
A person can Zik change. Well, when you focus on something, such as Zik,
Mm-hmm.
your behavior will change because you're doing a mental exercise,
Mm-hmm.
and then with that mental exercise, you'll think about the meaning of the Zik. You'll think past the Zik into the state that you want to be in. There's things that are going on in the brain. So in time, the behavior will change naturally, just like if you take vitamin D, the vitamin D levels will increase. And anything is like that because what happens is you're using a specific amount of these invocations every day. Before that, that time was taken up by something else. So whenever you focus on something in that manner, the behavior will always naturally change. Especially zikr Allah, because it's based on usually one of the 99 names of Allah, and these are archetypes. Like salam is the archetype of peace. So the archetype is the essential design of a structure. So if you meditate on peace and you keep saying Ya Salam, we're calling in this peaceful state, you're naturally going to, in time, have a peaceful state of mind because this is what you're thinking about. In the same way, when a person thinks about other things, in time, they do those things. So your mind will always follow the course that you set for it because the mind is like a child holding his parent's hand in the city. When the parent let that child hand go, the child will wander anywhere. So the mind is a perfect slave, but it's a terrible master. So the zik is a way to guide the soul or guide the mind into that reality, because we're speaking it, we're meditating on it, and you're actively doing this exercise, which it is a mental exercise.
Awesome. I have no more questions right now.
All right. If anyone has from the chat, if you have a question about any of the subject matter, I'll answer the question. And if not, then until our minds meet again, travel light. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد الفاتح لما أغلق وخاتم لما سبق ناصر الحق بالحق وهادي إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله حق قدره ومقدار العظيم. سيدنا محمد رسول الله عليه السلام الله إن ملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلم تسليما. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين الحمد لله رب العالمين آمين.